Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy Live, episode 40. I am Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello. This is so exciting.
I know. So we are doing a recommended reading list. So first, let's say hello to the peoples. Hello, Quentin. Hello, Daniel. And yes, so today, Brit and I decided, so what we're going to do is we were going to provide like our top 5 Superman books, our top 5 Wonder Woman books, and then our top 5 Super Wonder books. What we didn't know is that we would have the exact same list, like down to the book.
Right.
Hey, what's up, Luffy? Yeah, but I texted Brit when I was putting together the PowerPoints. I'm like, legit, this is the exact same list. Hey, what's up, Randy? So let's get started. All right. So first off, we're on episode 40. Thank you all for watching, because this show, it took off way faster than I thought it was going to do when I started this. But wow, 40 episodes, Brit. We're almost up to a year of doing this show.
Yes. It is from the time that we was planning it and everything and trying to get together to now we're like full, going full forward with this. It's just, yeah, like I said, it's exciting.
So fun fact, this show was actually the first time Brit and I actually spoke before, because previously it was all text conversations.
And we both knew that we had a lot to say, but now being verbal, we have a lot to say.
Well, Brit, this is the show on the channel that goes for the longest, like 3 hours. So it's like our longest episode. So I'd say we definitely do have a lot to say. And he gives us a lot to say, like the crappy Superman suit, which we'll talk about later. But so here's the reading list. This show has been life-changing for everybody. Oh, I really appreciate that. We are awesome. But and the show was definitely like the biggest boost to getting me to 1K, so I am forever grateful. So let's do this. So the first book that that definitely Brit and I picked was New 52 Superman Action Comics by Grant Morrison. And I'm like, yes. As soon as I read this, I was like, yep. Of course, this is definitely going on my list, because what I liked about this, Quentin Hale, I love this. Clark and Diana are the only ones sharing a book. Coincidence? I think not. Yes. So, Brit, why did you pick this book to put on the list for best Superman books? And I'll provide my reasoning as well.
Okay, well, first, and we've talked about this, how Superman, the interpretation, or, the general audience and stuff, how they think that Superman is boring. What he represents is just, like this American poster boy for all the wrong reasons. And so what Grant Morrison did, and especially what New 52 as a whole, was bring these characters to the modern day of how they're supposed to be. Superman is the man of tomorrow, not the man of yesterday. And with seeing him in the jeans and tee, and putting him back to the social crusader, the social justice warrior in the right sense, and putting him back as the champion of the oppressed, really spoke, especially with being a African American. Is kind of like, that is the Superman that truly speaks, because he goes in depth, or try to, with the ups and downs of being a foreigner, and actually embracing it, and actually, again, fighting for the lesser. And then to actually see him like go against the government when all this time you think Superman is a government lapdog.
Thanks, Tom King.
And that was just so refreshing to have the character going back to his roots as, the golden age crusader that he was supposed to be.
And here's the thing also, and they kind of play off of this in the Superman Wonder Woman book. It's kind of cool. So you have this guy in this run, he gets captured and tortured by the government. And Tevia, did we mention the Truth arc? No, we didn't, because that sucks. And by the way, Tevia, when we mean what we mean is Superman and Wonder Woman were the only superheroes to share a book that had Superman and Wonder Woman. The book Superman and Lois didn't come out until Rebirth, and then it was a flop. But anyway, my point is, so the arc of this Superman, Brit, he goes from being captured and tortured by the government to still fighting for us. But by all rights, he should have turned into Homelander. But no, that's why I love this series, because it proved that no matter what you do to him, Superman will fight for us.
Exactly. And you also see that he wasn't just like so easily accepted. He was actually earned, you know, through the eyes of the public. And also his acceptance with the public wasn't just one person. It wasn't just Lois. It was, everyone. And that is what was missing with Superman, because once you reduce him to just the Kents and Lois, it's kind of like, who is he actually fighting for? He's supposed to be this global hero, but it seems like his sole motivation is only the Kents. And then the fact that people don't want to, some older fans don't want to admit that post-crisis was really bad. And
and it almost led to the dissolution of DC Comics. So
yes, and it went too far, especially with Superman, of like being spoon-fed and having a silver spoon, having the perfect, like, this life with his two adoptive parents, and the marriage, even if the marriage was a mess, it's still that DC tried to portray it as, this perfect marriage and stuff like
which
that.
it isn't. But
Yeah.
the other thing is, like, for the longest time, I've been very vocal on this channel that when I first got into like superheroes in general, and I mean before Comics League, before everything, before the Snyder Cut, man, that was a dark time. But I was always just more of a Batman fan, because again, I was one of those people. I thought Superman was a joke and very vanilla, in other words. But
exactly,
when I read this and when I watch like Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, I get it, because what Grant Morrison and Zack Snyder did, admittedly, was they broke Superman down to his fundamental core and said, here's who the character is from a fundamental core. Then they built them back up to as Superman, because when you think about it, the early arc is pretty, I don't count that as Superman. That's who it kind of is. That's fundamentally who Kal-El is. And then they build it up more. They give him the suit. They put him in the Justice League. Slowly but surely, you're building to the Superman that everyone knows. So, because then once you understand the fundamental building blocks of who Kal-El is, you then understand Superman as a character.
Right. And it's not just Clark Kent. That is the one thing also that it reversed. New 52 was trying to actually put the characters back to the golden age, not and have a little realism of the modern world too, and that might have been going a little bit extreme, but not necessarily. But to me, Superman is always Superman, Clark Kent, and Kal-El, all equal.
Yeah, all three.
And I don't like he has to go one way or the other and go so extreme. But also, if he does go one way or, the other, that one is better than the other, or the play on Clark Kent is the good, identity. Kal-El is the alien that's bad and doesn't have his humanity and stuff like that. So
yeah, the whole Clark is who I am, Superman is what I can do. That's a big BS thing. By the way, Atchin has a question for you, Britt. Since DC is too chicken to put Clark and Diana back together, would you be content with them returning Connor and Cassie's relationship?
No, because that's two different relationships. Even if the thing is, when you think of SuperWonder, it's not just Superman and Wonder Woman. It's also Clark and Diana. It's Cal and
it's who
Diana
they are as
from
people.
Mascara. Yeah. So those are two different relationships. Just because they're a super and a wonder, that is basically what people see in how they, say that Superman and Wonder Woman as a couple is superficial, but you are reducing it to that, just the super and the wonder. You have to look at these characters and how they play off each other and what you perceive as their relationship. And also
Exactly.
Clark and Diana are more mature adults. Their relationship is based on being best friends and having like a longer history than Connor and Cassie. Connor and Cassie they pretty much is because it's because of Clark and Diana's relationship, and then they are like teenagers. So it's a different dynamic there.
It was still a cool relationship. Like they did this great issue for Blackest Night when, well, it was actually post Blackest Night. It was when, okay, so Connor has just come back from the dead because remember he was killed by Prime and Infinite Crisis and all that stuff. And it's kind of funny. He's trying to figure out how to be more Clark Kent and less like Lex Luthor. So he has a list of like, what would Clark Kent do? What would Lex Luthor do? And on the Clark Kent list, it's go on a date with a girl. And so Cassie shows up in Smallville. They have a nice picnic and they talk about like their relationship. It's actually a pretty dope issue. I enjoyed it. By the way, so Tevia asked, how did you feel about the new 52 Superman's return in the Sideways comic?
It was basically the deals it felt like he was trying to bring back New 52 in the last minute type thing. And
kind of funny how that turns out. It's like they get rid of it and they're like, oh no.
Yeah, so it's kind of like he wanted to give a hint that he is out there somewhere because, of how they see that people do like this iteration of the character.
Plus,
So
that's the version that's in the movies. Because what people don't really know is that the version of Superman that we saw, yes, it borrows some elements from post-crisis, but it borrows a freaking lot. The Snyderverse Superman borrows a lot from, particularly Batman versus Superman, borrows a lot from this era of Superman.
yeah, the part that is borrowed is basically the hardships of knowing that you're an alien and what he has to go through. And yeah, that is the realism of it. But when you try to, that part of Superman has been glossed over for so many decades that when you actually put that forth, the fans, post-crisis fans that are loud, reject that.
Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, so it's kind of funny. I wanted to tell you. I don't think I told you this yet, but I co-host a show, a weekly comic book show on a friend's channel, and one of the co-hosts. So they found out I was a SuperWonder fan, and then the dude asked me, "Are you pro or against it?" I said, "I'm very pro it," and he goes, "Yes, exactly." So I'm like, "Yes, more and more of us are coming out, Brit." There you go. So. Next book for Superman, yes, of course. If we're Super Wonder fans, you really can't like not be a Super Wonder fan without this. It's Kingdom Come. I mean, come on. This is the book, and I said this actually last live stream we did, that this kind of started the Super Wonder thing. And what's kind of funny about it, when you think of Kingdom Come, it kind of like shows that no matter what happens, Clark is with Lois now or something like that. Eventually, he's going to end up with Diana. So really, Super Wonder is an eventuality.
Well, I would say that Kingdom Come pretty much, yeah, it made it a more solidified like future. Well, Kingdom Come was the future of DC at the time. And so, yeah, it did solidify Clark and Diana's relationship to be basically the end game. And now, some people are trying to speak negatively of Kingdom Come, and they don't want it to become a thing because they know that this is the ending. And after everything,
that's what started as. Mark Waid was very clear. It started as the eventual ending of DC.
And the thing is, even Mark Waid, he has like, I would say, he uses Kingdom Come in a positive way to kind of like prop himself, but he still gives it like backhanded compliments or whatever.
Because there's more Alex Ross, though.
Yeah, and the fact of like Gail Simone and others have complained, and he says that the wrong lessons are taken from it, but no, it's really not. It's some of them are, some of them aren't. Especially with Clark and Diana's relationship, because the purpose of this story was to show that, you know, you don't need to go to the extreme of death, of killing and stuff like that, and just propping up anti-heroes. You have to have a balance, and you have to have the characters who are inspirational.
Yeah.
And with Clark and Diana, they go through things actually, you know, it's actually them going through a journey, and you root for them as individuals and as a couple. And yes, they argue like an old married couple. That's how you a relationship works.
I love that.
And at the end, a new life is formed by their, coming together, finding a new love, and they create this new beginning, which is Jonathan, Hyperman. So the story, even if it is quote unquote dark, it still has that
It's
happy
hopeful at
ending.
the end. So really, it's not as dark as people think it is.
Exactly.
The
And
problem with my problem with Mark Waid is that he's straight up said like the part of like Kingdom Come is to say you don't want this, and I'm like, dude, as a customer, I'm a customer of you. You don't get to tell me what I shouldn't want. You should you should find out what I want, particularly if I'm patronizing your service, and provide it. It's that simple. It's a business. It's not a charity.
right. And I also want to say that Kingdom Come, this is, well, we've talked about that, but this is where the concept of the Trinity comes from. And this is practically where the wrong lessons are taken, because the Trinity now is very superficial. It's not even an actual group as it was in Kingdom Come of them, coming together as they should. It's just more of a branding thing that really just doesn't have any substance.
Mhm.
And also, Kingdom Come elevated Wonder Woman to be as the equal that she should have been, decades ago to Superman. And it's not so much as the romance that elevates her, it's just the fact of her voice being heard and her being like the voice of reason as she should be. So, yeah, Kingdom Come is flawed in the good ways. And, for people to try to turn their backs on the story, it's like you're basically jumping on the bandwagon of, you know, Lois fans, or just people who think that you can't have dark stories.
Yeah, it's like
And
the same people who retroactively talk about how much they hate Dark Knight Returns and then forget that Dark Knight Returns saved Batman.
yeah, exactly. Kingdom Come saved, again, saved the industry from its collapse, with the anti-heroes and all of that, and especially with Death of Superman, how,
Mhm.
that almost crashed the comic book market,
Thanks,
because they,
Jurgens.
yeah, being a publicity stunt. So in Kingdom Come also started CBR.
Mhm.
So it's like a lot of good has came out of Kingdom Come, but of course the revisionists want to again turn it around and make it dark, make it just seem like it's just this bad thing, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So Tevye has a question for you. Do you think why do you think Hyperman John Kent hasn't appeared in the main DC universe?
Uh, I think that really no one has the creative mind to handle, this kind of character. He is a time traveler, I believe, and
Mhm.
he has other kind of psychic powers or something like that.
Because also when you
So,
think about it, at the time that this came out, I don't think there was a multiverse. I think because this is post-Crisis, but pre-Infinite Crisis when they restored the multiverse. So it was all hyper time, I think.
right, and he was the protector
Hmm.
of Hypertime. So I think that really is just DC doesn't have the creative mind to do such a thing. And to be the son of Superman and Wonder Woman, or even a daughter, it takes a lot of creativity. And
Yeah.
you have to have the story keep the momentum, because you are going to end up like Rebirth John, and which is just a copy of Superman. He has really no personality, and no motivation as an individual character. He doesn't have a story now. That really, they put him in a corner because of the 5G idea,
Hmm.
and he was supposed to be Superman, but now that that fell by the wayside, they don't know what to do with him.
And plus, also they have the overly redundant character known as John Kent. Sorry to have you, but he's redundant. Right? Randy says, but according to Twitter, injustice is gospel of DC. Exactly. That's my issue with like the DC fandom in general, is because they think that if Superman and Wonder Woman get together, just that injustice happens. And I'm like, you clearly didn't read Injustice recently.
Not only that, but Injustice is a video game. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, just because it's within, and okay, at some point we are all casual readers.
Hmm.
But at the same time, as a casual reader, you still want to know the basics
Hmm.
and the differences between an Elseworld and the main, quote unquote, main, world.
Hmm.
And you want to know these characters at their core. So you can know the difference of, oh, this is just an Elseworld, a twisted, this is not the actual character. I can read this and either enjoy it or not like it and move on. But so many people take Injustice and, yeah, put it as the gospel, because DC has um, fueled that. They fueled it with it when they were trying to tear down Clark and Diana's relationship. It's within the New 52, Booster Gold got erased for some reason that didn't even come up anymore. Um, Superman turning evil because of Lois. These kind of things, the lines blur. So when you have those lines blur, it's difficult to have casual readers actually understand the characters as they supposed to be.
Exactly. So moving on to our next one, this is Superman origin story that we wanted to cover, and that is Superman Birthright, which I freaking love. And so Britt, elaborate on why Superman Birthright is on this list.
Okay, so I was talking to a friend and I was just like, some stories of Superman I avoid because it's too much Lois.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, but I just I can't. So when he told me to read this, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. And when I started it, and he also explained it to me that it is Superman, dealing with xenophobia. And I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't so much as I can turn a blind eye on Lois, her parts, if it's Superman actually dealing with the social issues he should. So, you know, that gave me, okay, this is a good story only because of that, because of the social issues.
Mhm.
And she, Lois is still a problem for me, but like I said, I can turn a blind eye.
Yeah, it's less about Lois in this story and more about yes, Superman. And in my mind, this is the definitive Superman origin story that I read as the one because yeah, if the focus is just on that and it deals with it actually borrows a lot from Man of Steel. I mean, Man of Steel, the movie borrows a lot from this, and it's really, really, really cool. Right, and Nickname says sometimes it feels like Lois is just shoved in there. So there's a lot of interest, even the story doesn't need it. Arguably, the story never needs Lois, but that's besides the point. And Perluffy says, I
Right.
think people like the idea of the son of Lois and Clark. They don't actually acknowledge that he's what he's actually become, which is a waste of space. He's always been a waste of space, though, even before he was aged up. And then I
And the
hate
thing
the
is,
yeah, go ahead.
with the idea of Lois and Clark having a son is because for years, decades, Clark and Lois was not, they weren't supposed to have any children, in main canon because Kryptonian and human DNA doesn't mix.
Mhm.
So for them to, you know, all of that history to be erased just to have John, they feel like that is something to hold on to. Even if
Mhm.
he is a bad character, it's still the fact that it happened, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was good that it happened, which we see.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and all in all, pretty dope story. And this is one of the origins that I visit a lot because also I like Lionel Francis Yu's art, particularly when he was at Marvel and stuff. And
Mhm.
it feels like an actual Superman movie. And I love my favorite part is at the end when he sends a message back in time to his parents on Earth that says, "Don't worry, I made it."
Yeah.
So you can imagine what that means to them to get a message from the son in the future, knowing no, if we send him now, he will make it and he will be this great hero.
Yeah.
I love it.
I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Mark Wade, I have my issues with him, but he does get the Superman I think that, I like.
Hmm.
That, so like I said, I can turn a blind eye on some things, and some things may peeve me. But if the story is good and really hits with the social issues and stuff, then I can give it a go.
Heck yeah. Next up, you had to put a Road to Rebirth book on here.
I'm sorry. Okay, so this book made me ugly cry
Well, yeah,
because
because he did die, so I'm like, okay, I see that.
but he died a hero,
Hmm.
and it just showed that, he really resonated. And at that time, a lot of people actually started to voice that they like New 52 Superman, even if they, were bashing him throughout New 52 era, and even now they try to. But this story really showed him as a hero. And honestly, I'm not giving credit to Tomasi. I just
You
refuse to.
shouldn't. No.
But and at the last minute he did show Clark and Diana as a couple. But again, I'm not giving credit because that was basically like a dangling carrot. But it still was a good story, and it showed him as, even at his last, he still was the hero that he's always had been.
Yeah, my problem with this is that yeah, the story's good. I acknowledge all those points you are correct. My one problem with this is that Superman just gives up and like says, "No, okay, I have to die." But when Diana literally says, "Okay, we have the gods; they can restore you, so let's go do that," and he's like, "No, I have to die, Diana." It's almost like he's saying, "No, I have to die because some fans are nostalgic."
Yeah, is his death is very contrived, because she brought him back twice. So a third time wouldn't have been anything, but yeah, it was only because they were trying to bring back post crisis, which honestly, look where they are now.
Yeah, look at how that worked. Plus Coward Superman. So there you go. So next is my favorite Superman story to come out in the modern era. Like there is no topping this. Freaking Warworld Saga. When I saw this, I was like, thank you. The Warworld Saga returned. Yes.
Yeah. Again, I can turn a blind eye on the lowest bits, but the champion of the oppressed was back and liberating a planet, and you know that fight really spoke about Superman yet again. Um, Now I can't say what Kennedy did afterwards
Mm-hmm.
with the suit, as
Mm-hmm.
the representation attaining that, but the initial story and the promise behind it, that is the Superman. Again, I love a
I think
Superman
nickname
story.
a bit, I think a nickname basically sums up all of this.
Yeah, I honestly, um any Superman story that again put forth the social issues that brings back the champion of the oppressed, the man of the people, and have him as golden age, sort of that attitude, you know. And what's funny though is that so many say that if Superman has an attitude like that, that he's Batman. And it's like, no, Superman is before Batman. Batman stole
Yeah.
Superman's personality.
Hmm.
So, so with seeing that, it's kind of like, man, a lots of you have to read Golden Age
Yeah.
and see his personality come through. And that is who, New 52 Superman really was, and also a little bit here too.
Yeah. And then you also have uh Warworld Saga was definitely inspired by John Carter. Yes. What do you think of Clark's new kids? They're all right to me, but I need more of their interaction. Yeah, there's not much. So there's not really much that like you can
Well,
like deal with.
well, Kennedy, he basically said they were um, created to be replacements for John. So that basically is it for them.
Hmm.
They have this, he wanted them to have this Kryptonian backstory of the Red Sun and Star Child or something,
Hmm.
and that would be their hero names. But they honestly don't really, they just, I think the last time they was shown, they were being babysat by Connor. That's
Hmm.
it. So yeah, they really don't bring anything. They're just replacement for John.
Yeah.
And if Kid John didn't really work because he was leeching, off of Damien, then these kids have, no chance.
Yeah, exactly. And then too many characters, so much potential. Yeah, in a Super Wonder universe, we wouldn't need the twins. Yeah, exactly, because we would have probably John Hyperman in this.
Yeah.
So all in all, great. I love the art in this. It reminds me of like He-Man, Superman. So it's all really, really, really dope. Johnson did a fan freaking tastic job with Warworld Saga. Then we have now we're going to transition to our favorite Amazonian princess, Wonder Woman. Starting with, I'm so glad this was the first option, Brit. The George Perez Wonder Woman run, so perfect.
Yes. Yeah. It really modernized Diana for not only for the time of the 80s, but also and really just bringing her back to um not so much as her golden age, but just it was surrounded by the feminism that she's supposed to represent and the strong female characters that supposed to be, elevating her character. And you had Julia and Vanessa, which really, as a second home and like an adoptive mother and sister. And Steve was an old man and showed that he wasn't needed as a love interest, and that him just being like the older brother father figure is much more compelling and makes much more sense than just Disney princess. Oh, this is the first man I met, so I'm in love with him and have to stay with him, even though you know there's no story after he crash lands, on the island.
Yeah.
And
In my mind, his usefulness to Diana ends the minute they leave the island.
even still, honestly, Steve crashing on the island is just a plot device.
Hmm.
And just as New 52, pretty much, it was an origin story, secret origins. And he was basically like, um, described as like the ticket.
Hmm.
So he was
Yeah.
just the ticket out. It wasn't, no, it wasn't like a divine, like this meant to be love story. It wasn't anything like that. It's just someone of the outside world was able to come in and, you know, if he can come in, possibly I can, go out or whatever. There's no need for her to be banned. It's just her exploring the world and becoming the hero that she is supposed to be and learning of, different cultures that she's read about, but she needs to have that experience.
Yeah. And this is the only run that I think used Steve Trevor well because, yeah, is not, he doesn't work as Diana's love interest. He works as like, and Atchison actually puts up really well. I like to Ed and Steve, also Perez handled the relationship wonderfully, pun intended. First off, well use of the pun. I appreciate that. But yeah, that was a good relationship there. Plus, he even set up in here that like Diana was in love with Superman. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that, well, even before the reboot, obviously, they had the fan letters and people were already complaining about Steve. And that is the one thing that really, like, it makes me scratch my head about DC, because when you have complaints and the complaints, go within your sales, like your sales are down and you have the complaints, then you have to take it seriously. So with trying to make Steve work, even when your sales are down, doesn't make any sense. But when you have complaints, but the sales are up and you actually have like a more positive reaction to certain things, you basically mess it up. So I'm like, what is the thought process of DC? I understand the whole traditional thing, but this is a business.
who said they
And
had a
for you
thought
to,
process?
that's true. Um, for you to just continue on with this relationship that really, isn't so much defining Diana, then, let it go and turn him back into an old man. I'm not saying that he has to die. I don't like that some people even say that, the the death thing. That's not so necessary. But
Here,
Perez,
Steve should be Diana's best friend who constantly teases her about liking Clark, basically her big brother. That works too.
exactly. Yeah. And that's pretty much what Perez did. He was a big brother. He called Diana his little sister. So that is really why I can't uh, get with the romantic sense of this relationship, because it was established for so long of Steve calling Diana a little sister, and then she was a bridesmaid at Steve and Etta's wedding. So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like particularly when like Tom King talks about how like this run was the prime inspiration for his run, and I'm like, did you read everything about it?
You know, modern writers say that they read, you know, uh past books, but you can tell no, they did not. Or even if they read it, they the things that they don't agree with or don't like, they love to twist it in a way to basically gaslight you or whatever into thinking that that is what it was meant to be interpreted as or something like that. It's a really weird thing that, and DC also has this everything is canon or
Oh
whatever
God.
thing. So yeah, it's basically like I can pick and choose
But if
which way I
everything's
want to go.
canon, which of Wonder Woman's origins is canon?
Yeah, they can't even nail that down. And really with Steve, if she was in the 40s, he's supposed to be an old man anyway. And or if, yeah, Tom King saying that Perez run is definitive, he's supposed to be an old man.
If it's definitive, I don't remember Wonder Woman punching her mother in that.
Right. They argued, but yeah, punching and
But even with
just
that, the reason why is because Hippolyta was talking about how much she's going to worry about Diana, and I'm like,
he was trying to, like, what he's trying to do is um give a compare and contrast whatever of or similarities and differences of her and Lizzie. And the thing is, Lizzie has not had any type of interactions with Diana in her future form, except
yeah.
for that.
That's why I think, it's kind of funny. DC's, I think, deliberately trying to keep those two separate because I think DC picked up on the fact that Wonder Woman's daughter debut has not been strong. So I think that that's why I think that once Tom King leaves the book, which could be anytime soon, I doubt we'll ever see Trinity ever again. There's a
Yeah,
reason why she's in the future.
Yeah, he says that she's the future Wonder Girl, or and it's kind of like DC's future isn't exactly set in stone, and it
No,
changes.
they changed it. So, like, you're a longtime writer of DC. During events where they rebooted, I'm pretty sure you know about this then.
Yeah, but modern writers are always trying to establish themselves and new characters for royalties. And given that, Tom King is um, a writer for the DCU, um, I'm pretty sure that is why he's trying to make Trinity work. I don't think she's going to be introduced in the DCU. It's just the
No,
fact of still wanting that, royalty.
yeah. Nickname asks, which origin of Wonder Woman do you prefer? Me personally, it depends on the story. If you story with the Clay origin, that's fine. If you can do the same thing with the Zeus origin, that's fine.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat. It can go either way as whatever the story requires.
Exactly. And Emperor Luffy says, I can't wait for all of DC to sweep Trinity under the rug and pretend she doesn't exist the moment Tom King's run ends. Well, here's the example. Do you ever see Punchline ever again after the James Tynion Batman run? Do you ever see Gotham and Gotham Girl ever again?
Exactly. Right.
I got news for you. These characters, she's not going to show up. I would highly doubt it because again, DC. I get the feeling that DC has paid attention to the reaction because short of Tom King fans, Trinity has not been the big like success that they thought she was going to be.
I don't even think they thought she was going to be a success. I think that they always have to market, things, whether it's a false or not, false advertisement, basically.
Yeah.
And, still, are the fans going to take the bait?
Yeah.
Obviously, the fans did not take the bait. And it's basically just Tom King. He pretty much said it in an interview that he's writing this for his kids.
Sure.
So, yeah, so it's pretty much just his kids and Super Son fans, but um, the Wonder Woman fans are not liking this at all. And yeah, once he leaves the book, Trinity's gonna be gone just as well. And I mean, even the Super Sons with John and Damien being within the book, it really doesn't make sense timeline wise for them, the ages and everything like that. For them to be as old as they should be and babysitting, yeah, it doesn't fit at all.
Yeah, exactly. Next storyline is one we've actually covered on the book. I mean, on the show. Spirit of Truth by Alex Ross, which should have been the plot for Wonder Woman 3.
Yes, this story again, it speaks to Diana as trying to navigate, through the outside world of trying to understand herself as the princess, as Diana Prince, and as Wonder Woman. And she has to find the right balance of and also where does she cross the line? And that is something that heroes have to, kind of question is how far do I go with intervening in certain things?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have um, some things to happen, because they can't just clean up everything. The world or mortals still have to function in a way and not rely on the heroes. And it's not to say they are like these gods that pick and choose, tragedies and deaths. It's not that. It's just the fact of, they have to live too. And they can't just fix everything, or else
Exactly.
the world isn't going to learn and evolve as it should. It's just going to be, kind of like those Wall-E movie, that movie, or something like that.
Oh
That's
God.
basically what that feels like. Is that mortals will be so reliant on the heroes that mortals will become lazy, and it feels like, or maybe even you know, uh, villains and stuff will become more, so you don't know which way to go, and you have to find that balance.
Yeah, and nickname as, have you seen the comic with Wonder Woman, Superman finding Batman a gift? Yes, we discussed this on a previous episode. It was okay. It was pretty good. That's what infuriated me the most about Tom King's Wonder Woman, because he has demonstrated he gets the characters. That's the problem.
My take on that is changed a little bit because of his recent interviews.
God, I read that. That's I only gave that book a 5 in my rating for the members because the art by Daniel Sampere is objectively great. So I'm not going to give it a 0 just because of the crappy writing.
Yeah, the thing is that, first, he didn't do the deep dive that he claimed of Clark and Diana's relationship, and that's the one thing that it seems, with the Trinity concept, and why I say it's superficial, because no, it's not. You can have the world's finest with Superman and Batman, but Clark and Diana's relationship is so surface level now because of the status quo of trying to have Clark with Lois and Tom King attempting Diana and Steve. But it's kind of like, why can't they be the best friends that we've seen them, be even in post-crisis? But they can't, because there's still this underlying type romance feel, and you can't go that far. I understand that, but at the same time, again, you said that you were going to do a deep dive of their relationship, yet you didn't. Instead, you go for trying to explain the Trinity, and still it's such a superficial view of them. Clark isn't just the best, he isn't, and Bruce isn't the worst of the worst, and Diana isn't exactly in between them. She really isn't. So trying to force this concept of the Trinity and always comparing Diana to Clark and Bruce is just unnecessary, and it's not what the Trinity is supposed to be.
Exactly.
And Clark and Diana's relationship isn't reliant on the Trinity concept at all. So really, that is the only thing that sours me with that issue, because the intent, it seems like he was trying to go for, and he didn't do it. But also, it's the fact of, you still think that, he wanted it to be like the Super Friends that he did for Batman. He wanted it to be like a 2.0 type thing. But yeah, again, Diana wasn't featured in Superman and Batman story. So, and then he plagiarized Immortal Beloved for the
I love where some Wonder Bat fans bring that up, that Tom King hinted that there's love there. I'm like, no, he didn't. It's them saying it's never going to work.
And it's the fact that he uses that story because he didn't have a story. It was only because the artist wanted to draw Wonder Woman. But initially the story was to be a bachelor party thrown by Green Lantern. And
that would have been so much more fun.
Yeah. So at the last minute, I guess he thought that no one would pick up on the fact that this is a plagiarized story. And so, that became a big thing.
I mean, hell, remember, Wonder Woman 7 is basically a plagiarized version of What Do You Get for the Man Who Has Everything?
Right. And that just shows how, and that's what I mean, is that it's so superficial and so contrived, because instead of being genuine and understanding the relationship, you try to plagiarize these older stories, but that is not the intent of the story. With Immortal Beloved, it's a trash story. It's a bait and switch. It's trying to throw Clark and Diana's relationship under the bus to show that Clark is married to Lois. But you still end up saying, like, well, Clark, 1,000 years doesn't make any sense. That
she's
whole
dead.
thing. Yeah, it really just made Clark seem like a psychopath a little bit.
Yeah, the vow when you marry someone says, "Until death do us part." Literally, that is the end point. plus the fact, here's the thing, I blame that comic for why people called Superman an adulteress because he was with Wonder Woman in Crisis. So I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
idea that like it'll always be Lois. What?
And that's what I mean by certain stories that people see. It and sometimes it can be taken out of context, but because DC decides to let these writers, disrespect some relationships out of to prop up others. And that's why I like Clark and Diana's relationship written in story, because it's never about putting Lois and Steve down. Like
No,
they never has
they could
done
have
have
easily done
done that.
that. They could have, Charles Soule could have easily done that, but he didn't.
Yeah. But you can see with trying to make Lois and Steve seem better, they always throw Clark and Diana's relationship under the bus. It's either they can't even be friends, close friends. And yeah, just that alone with Tom King, I'm having a difficult time with really accepting and his take on Diana, because even with the interview, like for issue 9 coming up, he is trying to push Steve as like this true love type thing, and
I'm like, please
but
kill
they
him. Please let the rumor that you're gonna kill him be true.
but it's like he he hasn't been there for Diana. He's very much irrelevant, but he's on the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
He says that Diana's sisters are being captured and murdered, and Steve has not spoken up for her
Yeah.
in that sense
You know who
of
has? You know who has? Superman.
exactly. He
Or
says
he
that it's wrong.
offered to. This is the part where I think Tom King did right in Wonder Woman 7 is when Clark says, "Do you want me to get involved? You know I will. I will do anything for you."
Yeah, that is the relationship, even as being platonic, that is the relationship that you should have. But with Steve, he was berating her in issue 2, saying that, her going against the US Army is worse than her going against gods. That whole thing was really weird, and he walked away from her, and instead of standing by her side. And even if, Tom King tried to play it off that Steve is secretly rooting for her or whatever, it still doesn't convey that he is on her side, which honestly, again, is very contrived. It doesn't show a love story or anything. So with her, you had Clark physically there with her in issue 7. He spoke to her. He told her that he will fight by her side no matter what. She denies him. But then she's conjuring up this fake Steve in her mind and trying to be romantic, in her mind. And it just doesn't make any sense, you
Yeah,
know.
particularly when it's like I'm reading the fake Steve in Wonder Woman 8. Yeah, I only have this issue by the way because because my comic book store had already set it aside for me when I canceled the book, so it's not so I wasn't gonna leave them with an issue that I didn't want. So I'm like, I'll keep it. Plus, I'll read it and see if it's any good. So I'm reading through the book, and this is last night. I can vividly recall this. And first off, I cringed every time they go to that like in their head, like where Wonder Woman's a housewife. She's saying, I could be better, Steve. I could be better. And I'm like, oh my God. I get that this is the bad guy trying to like show Diana how she should be, but even this is like really cringe, bro.
And it really just goes back to after Marston died, how they made Diana chase after Steve. And that's basically what Tom King is doing. He talks about how she's supposed to be this rebel, how she is supposed to be going against the system or whatever. But her being with Steve is not going against the system. It's literally just going along with the system. Even in one, I think issue 3, it says that she was accepted as a hero, and but only because she was with an American soldier with Steve.
What?
And yeah.
What? I must have missed that. I didn't hear that. That is complete BS. I'm like, wait,
Well,
wait a second here.
Sovereign said it so as the villain, but yeah, he basically was saying that she
Oh my
was,
gosh.
on she's on the Justice League. She is friends with Superman and Batman. So yeah, she's going to be accepted
Okay.
only because of men, but
So
also.
I gotta tell you this. I did a poll on my thing that was like, should I put it back on and complete the arc and just check it out? Now I'm definitely not putting that book back on my poll list because I'm like, no, that is BS, dude. Hell
Right.
no.
Yeah, I mean, he also says in the interview that like the love story is only because like Steve crashed on the island. So it's like he actually had a hard time um explaining why Diana is with Steve.
I mean, the other thing is that he did kind of see. Here's the thing: he did kind of in that interview mention about how their how their love is more like a friendship love. So I'm like, okay, you kind of got to the George Perez stuff there, but even there, I was like, then why are you having them very romantically involved?
Because Tom King is a traditionalist. I mean, he said how he views Superman is very much early post-crisis rah America.
Yeah,
And
he even said Superman is a champion for the status quo, and I'm like, since when?
yeah, so his whole thing is, you know, Diana being with Steve is, and he also likes Steve because he's in the military. And I'm
Sure.
like, that is not a good sign because just in reality, the American military stuff is not a good look. So again, if you want Diana to be this rebel against the system, having her be romantic with someone that is within the system
Particularly
and
when you did a very tone deaf veteran suicide issue. And I'm
yeah,
like, you claim you like that the military, but you do this. So I'm like, you're very inconsistent.
and then and again, Steve is right there and not saying the word, knowing that her sisters are being murdered. Even Diana, she doesn't really have, you're not really showing her in mourning or anything like that of, you know, her sisters. And and not only that, but they had families, which again is contrived because the Amazons didn't have families in man's world. So it's kind of like, where did they come from? And that takes away also Diana's her story because if so many Amazons have been in the outside world, living married with children,
Why have a contest? The whole point of that
yeah,
contest was decide who's gonna lead the island.
and who's going to be the representative of the island?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that whole thing is contrived, but still, so you have the Amazons um living in the outside world, a family, children. They probably and really the Amazons are tall. So I mean,
They're not
for it to
hiding.
be,
They're tall, statuesque, except for like in that Wonder Woman future state where they have an overweight Amazon. They all look pretty much the same.
yeah. So for you to have the Amazons there in the outside world, and for that to never be mentioned, that is just so weird. Um, but the whole thing is contrived, and the emotion is just not there. But it seems like, yeah, the only thing that Tom King really cares about is trying to make Steve this love story, whatever, and he only cares for Trinity to be babysat by the Super Sons. And but Wonder Woman as a person, or as a character, solo, yeah, he's not really hidden.
Well, yeah. And plus, okay, so that's Spirit of Truth. This book is awesome. If you want a more in-depth discussion of it, we actually did an episode 2 weeks ago on that. So it's a really good one. Last week's episode, Wonder Woman fighting a dragon in JLA League of One. What a fantastic book. That should have been an animated movie.
And showing that Batman's contingency plans are.
Well, yeah, and it's like they did the whole contingency plan thing with Wonder Woman better because it's like, yeah, she would know how to take down these guys because she's a warrior. Batman's just a dude that has stuff, and they had to contrive that because Mark Waid was writing JLA. Kind of funny how that ends up.
But I believe even he said that, like, why are you taking this serious? I think he said that, like, did you not read the rest of the story? Like, this is actually a bad thing,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, the whole story tells it's a bad thing. But anyway, this is awesome. Diana fights a literal dragon, almost dies, and then is actually revived by Superman, which is actually really cool because he's the only one that could do the CPR chest compressions on her.
Compressions, he was punching her.
He was literally punching her in the chest. He was like Superboy Prime reviving Jason. He's like, wake up!
And then it's the fact that she wakes up so normal. It's like that
Yeah, she's
didn't
like,
even
oh,
like
I'm sorry.
affect her.
It's like she goes, sorry, I was having a beauty nap.
And then the very last page, it looks like they're like having a wedding ceremony too.
I know.
So yeah, but this
Batman
story,
is standing there smiling, and like Aquaman is there with the little cherubs, and like everyone is like, yeah, they definitely look like it's a wedding party. Plus, she has her hands in his a little long.
yeah. So this story, it does need to be an animated movie because it really shows Diana first. Her being the only woman on the Justice League is a little tired. I would rather have, Vixen, Black Canary,
Well,
Zatanna.
that's cool because in the Brad Meltzer JLA run, when they reformed the league after Infinite Crisis, Black Canary led the Justice League.
Yeah, this story could still work with them because, I mean, Diana wasn't trying to be manipulative, but she was just, she understood that she would make the sacrifice for her family, and she called the Justice League her family.
Put Barda on the league. That's a good one. I would love for Barda to be on the league.
Yeah, especially with the Apocalypse, that fight. That was
Darkseid War. That was one of my favorite parts. So they're fighting. So what had happened was in that storyline. So one of my favorite parts. Barda vanishes in the middle of the battle. And even Scott's like, Barda, where are you, honey? And then it's like, so Darkseid is being like puppeted by Grail, and they're fighting the Anti-Monitor's armies. All of a sudden, you hear a rumbling, and then a boom tube opens with Darkseid. Barda leading the female Furies, going for Darkseid, and it is just the most badass image ever. There's like Lashina, Mad Harriet. Yes, I know their names because I'm a big fan of the female Furies. And they just unload on Grail. It is one of the coolest things ever drawn by Jason Fabok.
Yeah, that story. I mean, at the end, Jeff Johns had like his ups and downs, but having the Justice League book as pretty much an event book, it really seemed epic on a proportion of, like we said, so many of these stories that we go back to really need to become movies. And that was one that should have became a movie instead of, even within the Tuckerverse.
I mean, technically we were going to get kind of that with the Snyderverse if it had been allowed to move on. I mean, let me put it this way. Zack Snyder's Justice League borrows heavily from at least the first arc, but we would have gotten something akin to Darkseid War in JL3, I think.
Oh, nice.
Well, in that it's the world against Darkseid. We wouldn't have the Anti-Monitor or anything like that, but I'm like, at least you would have given me something I want. So, in other words, sell the Snyderverse to Netflix, we can get that. But yeah, so overall, yeah. So there are so many stories, by the way. And by the way, in the chat, put in the chat, like, what stories do you think need to be animated movies? Because even with this, because they could recreate the art style pretty effectively, I think.
Well, what money?
well, yeah, that too. I mean, assume. Well, yeah, because according to Sam Liu, yeah, they don't get that big of a budget. That's the problem.
I mean, honestly, Jim Krieg, he said he's leaving WB Animation after Crisis. And, well, I think after Watchmen, actually, because he said that he had more projects like this, I guess, already done. and I'm pretty sure that's just Watchmen.
Why are we getting a
But
Watchmen movie when Zach already gave us the Watchmen movie?
you know what? I don't know if this is going to be like Doomsday Clock type thing.
Oh God.
Um, but it probably will be just Watchmen animated because I don't think they have anything like that. And honestly, I don't know why they chose Watchmen because he said that they wanted more JSA movies. If you knew that this uh verse was ending, I would think that you would try to put as many, movies that you thought were a better fit. And the JSA movie, um, with Wonder Woman leading, was actually the highest selling Tomorrowverse movie.
It was great
So,
too.
yeah, so you should have had Wonder Woman, even though she has had a prominent role within the Tomorrowverse, which I'm very surprised of. Um, yeah, JSA movies should have been the go-to thing because Tomorrowverse Superman, Superboy, he is very much a secondary character. Even in Warworld, he really just he was kind of written as the rookie. And I think Jim said that it's like his third year as Superman. So
There was
yeah,
only
so he
so he was only Superman / Superboy according to DC marketing for 3 years.
right. So I mean, honestly, with I guess this is the main Earth. So obviously the main Earth, um 3 years passed, but Earth 2, they a lot of years has passed on that Earth. Um Now that Earth 2, um Batman, Catwoman is they're dead, Lois is dead, um Black Canary and I think Jay Carrick is the only two that are
Which is weird considering that even in the part 3 trailer, you see a young Black Canary, so it could be
they
from
have
another
two.
Earth.
Yeah, they have two. They have Black Canary, two actually, and an older Black Canary.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
Hawkman has been reincarnated.
Yeah. Well, he died at the end of JSA, so it makes sense at least he would come back. By the way, so real quick, what the audience wants is Kingdom Come. Yes, that works. Superman, son of Darkseid. Oh yeah, the Elseworlds where Clark crashed in Apocalypse. That's actually not. You know, it's kind of funny, Brit. I read that book. He ends up with the Wonder Woman of that universe,
Ha, funny.
which is
That is
Barda. Because
ironic.
yeah, because Barda essentially fulfills the Wonder Woman role. So I'm like, oh, there you go. Superman versus the KKK. Yeah, that could actually be pretty fun and tangent and cogent, in other words. Power couple. Yes, I think we all want power couple, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Forever Evil. That could be fun. Like the evil, at least a Justice League versus the crime syndicate. We got it kind of in Crisis 1, but I want more.
Yeah.
Superman Doomed. Okay, that one's a good one. I like Superman Doom with the whole him turning into Doomsday. George Perez as an animated series, as long as it doesn't involve Bruce Timm, because then Wonder Woman, the one will be 18, and then he'll have her with a bunch of older men, because that's what Bruce Timm likes. Smallville, but animated. They're working on that. But
well, I don't know because James Gunn, unless of course you're his friend, yeah,
Rosenbaum is his friend, so there could be
that is the only way that could work because other than that, even pretty much that is why the Tomorrowverse is ending, and
that's why
everything
Superman
else is
Lois
ending.
is ending.
Yeah, because James Gunn has taken over everything, and they're basically going to streamline everything and putting
Well,
their
not
eggs
really.
in one
Here's
basket.
the thing, Britt. Did you hear what came out today?
No.
So it came out that Rick Flag Sr. is going to show up in Peacemaker, and then he said that he has some unfinished business with Peacemaker about the death of his son. So I'm like, you're telling me the Suicide Squad is canon too? So basically everything you did was canon, but everything that
Yes,
everyone actually went to go see and liked is not canon. Even though
exactly.
he confuses it so many more times when he says some stuff from season 1 of Peacemaker is canon, but some stuff isn't. Do you expect the audience to pay attention?
Exactly. I did read that. And yeah, that is the thing. Gun is basically like the Rebirth.
Oh
Um
yeah, it's people, and I wonder if it's gonna uh, financially behave as well as DC Rebirth did, and if it does, DC Films is doomed.
yeah, so basically that is the idea, is everything connects with James Gunn's idea. So the movies, which has already been stated, the whoever is casted live action will be the voice actors of animation and video games. Um, and I mean, honestly, that is very
Stupid
boring.
and
And
stupid.
yeah, I understand because you don't have any money to hire a lot of people. Even Jim Creed, he said that, how Crisis is when you see characters moving weird in the background, or they are just in the background, um, just standing there, and or certain lines are cut, or little some actors or characters have like one line, is because that's all they could afford,
Mm-hmm.
with that actor. And it's like, well, if DC is and WB is that tight on money, I don't know if, like I said, putting your eggs in one basket is the right idea.
Which is why also I think that after the lukewarm at best, abysmal at worst reception of the Superman suit is going to go for DC, because here's the thing. Because I heard from an insider that they're going to do like damage control, and one of those is like make a new suit. So I'm like, that's not going to happen, because WB is not going to invest the money into building a new suit. It'll probably be they'll take another marketing picture. The problem with that is that it doesn't like fix the issues that people have with the suit. So really, it's not looking good because you already made a crappy first impression.
Yeah, and again, as I said, um, the shot was only um, posted for the fact that they are filming outside. So people are going to um, take pictures, and he will be in the suit. Honestly, it would have been better if you would have had leaked photos
Mm-hmm.
than that image that's supposed to be official. And then, and also the earnings call. I
No.
think that,
Oh,
you know,
imagine this, Brit. You're already losing. You lost over $200 million because of Suicide Squad, and you're like, okay, release a picture of the suit, because maybe if we drum up hype, we can make ourselves look good in front of the board.
yeah, and the 40% loss in stocks, that is, I mean, I don't know what a company can do to basically reverse all this. But this idea, or non-existing idea that they have, whatever, is not going to work. I really don't see this movie being a success, or not even half of what Man of Steel did.
Because it's not good. But anyway, and by the way, nickname, they're not going to put Manchester Black into this movie, because the only authority member that's ostensibly showing up in this movie is the engineer. That's it. Because they're saving the actual authority for an authority movie that we're getting before Wonder Woman movie. Isn't that stupid? We're getting an authority movie before Diana of Themyscira.
Right. That is also, I mean, why are you doing an authority movie?
Because
That's
James
such
Gunn,
a,
that's why.
yeah, that is such a niche. And if Suicide Squad, um, failed and with the box office. And so many people want to blame COVID,
It,
but
it
the
didn't even
thing
get
is,
that many views on HBO Max, so it's not like it's just people are not interested in Suicide Squad.
right, or Blue Beetle,
Yeah.
Shazam 2, Aquaman made a profit, but it had the help from China.
Hmm.
So that I
Just like the
really don't
first one
count.
did.
Yeah, that I really don't count. But Blue Beetle, Black Adam, and Shazam 2 and Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, I believe too. Those
Yes, he is, Tevia.
movies flopped. So yeah, to try to put your faith in the authority, which is like I said, a very niche um franchise. Even Dead Boys Detective, that was a good show, but it really, like, there wasn't interest on Netflix, which honestly Netflix is the right network um to have shows like that. But yeah, the interest for that show just wasn't there.
And by the way, so Cameron says the reason why they're doing Authority is because DC wants to have their Guardians of the Galaxy. If they wanted their Guardians of the Galaxy, there's literally a brand that works perfectly for that. Are you ready? 2 words: Green Lantern. That's your Guardians of the Galaxy, and you don't do
That's
that.
true.
But by the way, so what I also heard from a certain insider that I do trust for the most part is that so Netflix wants to do more DC stuff, 100%. They also want Zach involved. So sell to Netflix and we get actually good Justice League movies. Because I got news for you. Even if James Gunn doesn't want to do that, he's not as autonomous as he thinks he is. Zaslav will do it. He
Yeah,
needs money.
if if he gets desperate enough, it's not even the money for the company, it's the money for himself.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, that's true. Have you seen how much that guy's paid for nothing?
yeah, so if any decision, just in general, whether good or bad, he will make it.
Mhm.
And because it's still at the end, he is getting paid. So
Exactly.
WB as a company can fall as long as he has his money like on an offshore account, he does not care.
Exactly. So next book that we're going to talk about, and this was one of the good future state books, is Immortal Wonder Woman. And I really dug this one because it's basically like Wonder Woman is the last surviving member of the Justice League. And it's cool seeing her like recount like the death of like Superman and her deciding that, and her basically saying, basically kind of saying I love him, but not directly saying it.
Yeah, this book, uh, the thing is, I think that only Michael
Mm-hmm.
wrote um I think he wrote majority. It's kind of like when Diana is really, I would say, much more in her state of like nurturing type love
Mm-hmm.
and really just being herself. It's Michael. But I believe in an interview, Becky wanted her to be like this party girl, this,
So stupid.
um especially within the Asgard arc,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting her like to drink and be with Siegfried, that kind of thing. I think that was Becky. But Conrad, which he also pretty much confirmed when Wonder Woman 800 came out and asked, about Clark and Diana's section of that book, he basically confirmed that it was um, the ambiguous type relationship of how you can read it, whether platonic or romantic. And that's the same thing that they did here. It was that Clark and Diana are close and their love is very layered. But in a sense, yes, you can definitely read this in a romantic way because just the emotion and the fact of Diana, wondering was his last thoughts of her. you know, as a friend, you wouldn't say that.
Hmm.
um, and saying that even when she's alone, you know, she can still see Clark as a clear vision. And the fact of seeing the Daily Planet globe, you know, floating in space. Then, and it's the fact of Diana really grappling with being immortal, even though Clark could have been immortal with her if not sacrificing himself with Darkseid. Um, that she is the one who will give birth to another world, you know, and that really goes back to her being a literal Mother Earth. If you go with the clay origin, that she was, you know, created by Earth with Hippolyta, um, you know, on the beach, the sand that was Earth soil, you know.
Hmm.
So with her at the end using her power to create a total different world now, you know, restarting the world, that really spoke to who Wonder Woman is at the end. And if you want to turn her into a goddess, that is the way to do it.
Exactly. My one problem with the book is that they did have an overweight Amazon, which doesn't make sense because of like the concept of Amazons. But besides that, I was like, okay, you know what? That's one thing that they're doing probably for social media points. So I understand that. So
Well, honestly,
yeah, go ahead.
honestly, with that, I would say that especially with the older Amazons
Hmm.
and the way Perez kind of presented it is that the Amazons are they they don't necessarily have to be, you know, these tall, statuesque women,
Okay.
muscular, you know, fit women. They do represent all ethnicities, all sizes, all ages of women. So it does make sense in the context of, um, I believe Perez run, and you do see different size, you know, Amazons, especially the elders. Or is even the fact of when Themyscira is open, women are invited to the island.
Hmm.
So, you know, even that she could have came from man's world and wanted to be on Themyscira. You know,
Okay,
it's
that's
just
understandable. I
yeah,
see.
it's just certain things like that, which I am for with the Amazons being, I love the reincarnation of that origin for them, and
Yeah,
the
that
fact
works.
that the fact that it is very diverse in ethnicity and age and, you know, size, because that really again speaks to Wonder Woman as who she is supposed to be. She represents all women, and she is for, you know, all women. It doesn't matter, and you're supposed to feel confident. So for that to show representation of a plus size woman as an Amazon, yeah, that is very accurate to
Okay.
um, Wonder Woman.
Okay. I never I thought that. I appreciate that. And that's why Britt and I work
Yeah.
so well together. So,
Yes.
last Wonder Woman story. I did not see this one coming because it's a Greg Rucka, but I love this one. Eye of the Gorgon. Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of Diana's books, she does make that sacrifice as the Amazon, but you know, the warrior of peace. And so many people think that it's hard to get that. Like Tom King saying that she's a contradiction and she can't have the sword, so it's just the tiara and the lasso and stuff like that. No, it depends on the situation. She can have the sword. She can have this arsenal of weapons or something like that. She can get her hands dirty. She can kill
If
when it's
he's really a
necessary.
fan of the military, he knows that they have specific weapons for specific jobs. That's the way being a warrior works.
Exactly. And if she isn't for weapons, why she with Steve? Because he uses a gun.
He's a Navy SEAL or a Marine or an Army soldier. I never know because they change his branch every freaking relaunch. But yeah, the point is his job involves him bringing violence to people. So it doesn't really work. If anything, if you don't want him to be, if you want her to be anti like weapon, she should be with Clark because he only uses fists.
Yeah. And well, that is the thing, that if you bring up that logic, that is going to be a total different answer to all of that.
Well, yeah,
but
with this, what I like about this too is like this is clearly inspired by the legend of Perseus killing Medusa. So I really, really dug that, and they kind of did this in the Wonder Woman. I think in the I believe it was the Bloodlines movie. So they kind of did this, and I also like this is where eventually you get to the gray eyes from this.
that is pretty much why I like this. First, Diana being blind, but she still can like outdo most of the Justice League.
Yeah, I love that scene. The Batman and Superman are watching her take down the entire league, including Flash, and they're like, man, even without her eyes, she's still good.
Yeah, and then the whole scene revealing that she has gray eyes. I love the gray eyes. First is being that it's a gift from Athena and the goddess of wisdom, and that is, you know, Diana's really her connection of the goddess is Athena. So
Speaking of
it really,
Athena, anyone that's watched Blood of Zeus season 2 knows that Athena plays a pretty major role in that.
I can't wait to see that.
It's so good. They gave her voices. They kind of designed her costume after Wonder Woman. So I'm like, yes. And by yes, we have seen Blood of Zeus, and season 2 is chef's kiss superb. These guys, so they basically made a Greek mythology show like superheroes, and it's worked so well. This is what I've been telling people to do.
So what was it? Okay. So the gray eyes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
We are playing with that ourselves.
Yes.
And the reason why the eyes really, so Clark and Diana and Bruce and most of like the black-haired, you know, characters, they have blue eyes. They don't really have a distinction. So with having Diana as who she's supposed to be, as this gifted by the gods and this exotic character, having her with the gray eyes is a rarity. Having gray eyes is a rarity. Well, the color gray that she is supposed to have. So it really speaks to her being different. And also, it's just, I don't know, I think that nowadays we just need like different distinctions for this for these characters, because even Gal, she had brown eyes, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And by the way, Andrew, thank you for the $5 Canadian super chat. I really appreciate that, brother. But so yeah, she did have like brown eyes, because here's the thing, they didn't do the like Medusa story yet, so they could have.
Well, I think they used her natural color, even with brown
eyes. To think about it, this could have been a great Wonder Woman movie as well.
Yeah, but then she would have probably needed Steve to be her eyes.
Nope. It's just change it to Clark.
No, Patty, she would have wanted Steve to be her.
She would have revived him for a third time, and then he gets turned to stone and smashed, so he dies a third time.
Yeah.
Did you see that Chris Pine basically threw shade at that? He was like, yeah, they were going to, I can't believe they're not going to bring back Wonder Woman, and he basically says that, like, don't worry, I wouldn't come back.
Yeah, he says, nope, he's gone. He said he's dead.
Yeah.
Was like, because I think Patty, she did say it was kind of like a dumb idea, but just go with it. And she tried so hard to defend it. But I think that you know, the cast, especially uh, Pine, he basically knew after this was a bad idea, and it really was because Wonder Woman and isn't motivated or her whole thing. She made a wish to bring a guy she only knew for like 3 days back instead of wishing to go home to see her, her mother and Amazon sisters that practically needed her. If I would say if 1984 was within, which it wouldn't be, but within the Snyderverse, it, you know, doesn't
It
really
kind of is
align.
because it takes place in like the past, so maybe, but still, I'm like, no. Here's the thing: it doesn't work because you think the world would have mentioned. Remember when everything went to hell because we all made wishes?
Honestly, wow, I did not think of that.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
the
now that
reason why when you think about it, it doesn't work in the other universe as well. No one referenced it because here's the thing: Man of Steel and BVS are still canon to both universes, so no one there references that back in 1984 the whole world went to hell. It was on the news and everything.
that this is why you were supposed to have, well, you don't blame Zack because he wanted just solo Superman movies, I think.
Because that's originally what the plan was. The plan was not to start a cinematic universe. He was good
So,
because Nolan said when he recommended Snyder, he's going to do for Superman what I did for Batman. So originally it was just to have a trilogy. It was only after Man of Steel did so well that they're like, can you make a universe out of this?
right. So with that, with if they were going to start a universe, you don't have Wonder Woman be thousands of years old and or in man's world for 100 years hiding, making wishes, and somehow people forget maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or
But they
or
never, but they never did. How did they? But they never showed like, did people forget or anything like that? It
or
would be
even
one thing.
her
It'd be one thing if when they're all connected by the lasso, he has. She says, "You will all forget this entire thing."
or even her being in the war. Did they not like have stories of like it was this woman that fought within the war? Nothing.
Here's the thing. Here's what I will counter that. Do you really think a lot of these macho alpha males will admit that they were saved by a woman
Well, yeah, I
that could do
know
all of
that.
these crazy things?
I understand that, but I mean, at least it would have been like a myth, like a story that someone would say. Even though they don't want to admit that a woman saved them, I would think that like,
It kind of was though, because remember Bruce had the picture of her in World War One.
but it's kind of like he had the picture, but why wasn't that no one else knew about it? That is the plot hole. And there were like no stories of her, even if you wanted like an Easter egg. Well, that was after Man of Steel, so you couldn't have had that. But at least fill in the blanks. It's just a lot of whys, and when you try to make sense of one thing, it's like a domino effect of trying to make sense of another. So
Okay, I can see
my
that.
whole thing is of why. Why was she here? Why didn't this happen? Even if they didn't want to like admit that they were saved by a woman, they would lie and
Mhm.
basically say like Snyder's first his initial idea for Wonder Woman was that which was
The
it it,
rejected idea, you mean?
it was, but still the idea was for her to take on like a lot of lovers or whatever. So yeah, men would lie and say they were with her even if they weren't. So that's what I'm saying is that
Mm.
those kind of stories still would have been told, throughout the decades. And especially if the men are older too, and you know how some older grandfathers they do tell old war stories and they exaggerate things, even play on that. It's some things that they could have made work better and to at least fill in some type of blanks.
True. and which does not make sense in the DCEU and post Doomsday Clock comics lore. That's true, Andrew, and thank you for another $5 super chat. At least with Wonder Woman 1, they kind of stuck with the whole she kind of helped from the shadows instead of like 100. That was an issue I had with BVS. So they go 100 years ago, I walked away from humanity, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you're going for. Maybe that's not the best, but I see what you're going for. But anyway, now we're getting to the SuperWonder part. You had to know that this was going to be number one on our list. The SuperWonder by Charles
Right.
Soule. There's no way this was not going to be number one on our list.
Yeah. I mean, this story, no matter what anyone says, this story sold. And it's about a power couple. And so many people want to use that marquee nowadays of, the ship they prefer. But by definition, what a power couple means is two individuals, Superman and Wonder Woman, Clark and Diana. They are actual individuals in being main characters. And it was an ambitious idea to put two main characters, two franchises together romantically. You can have Superman and Batman as as bros. That's been a thing forever with World Finest. But to actually put two main characters together in a romantic sense and try to make it work, which Charles Soule really did. Until DC screwed it up with Tomasi.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that could have lasted much longer than it did. And to see that they had to, bring up so many contrivances to make it not work. And now you have a lot of revisionist history and stuff. And talking about the New 52 being a failure, just things like that facts do not back up. It's just this story really showed that this concept works. Whether you and it's also showing how irrelevant Lois is because she doesn't have a role as a love interest.
Plus, also remember, Batman tells Clark he basically refused the whole he needs Lois to ground him. When Batman says, "Okay, so listen, you're a dude. As far as you are concerned, you were raised on Earth. As far as you are concerned, up to a certain point, you were just a dude that happens to have special powers. In fact, I think you would consider yourself to your day just a regular human being that happens to do these amazing things." So, and here's the thing, that whole grounded argument doesn't work because he was raised by humans. He was Superman before he met Lois Lane.
Yeah, the thing is, what they want to make it seem like with Superman is that just because Lois was in the first Action Comics issue, he was still Superman like before her, though. He was still saving people. He saved her. She was a damsel in distress, really, within the first issue. So for people to say that, well, she was with him within the first issue, or
No, she wasn't.
Just things like that, it's like they say the surface level things, but with the actual context, that is the truth. But that's the truth that they don't want, to be known. Because it messes up the whole narrative. And then again, post-crisis has really just screwed, the perception of Superman is that he is the Clark is who I am, Superman is what I can do. I'm codependent on with Lois and the Kents. I'm human, alien is bad, yada yada. So yeah, that whole thing really is why so many people are so falsely vocal about Clark and Diana and trying, but it's false. You know,
Exactly.
even with the complaining and just all of that, you see that we still have a growing fan base.
I
You
mean,
know,
hell,
and
the Instagram for it, congratulations, by the way, is like outpacing a lot of these a lot of these other shipping accounts.
yes, and thank you very much, and thank you to everyone of supporting it
All the
because
links
we are,
all of the links are in the description, so go and subscribe and hang out over there too.
yes, we are actually like a few followers away for from 63,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just saying like a month ago about 60,000 and now we're at 63. So and it's honestly, I don't know, like it's more people. And what's crazy is that when the suit revealed, it's like um
Again, it happened again. They talk about it for a little bit, hostily, and then they're done.
yeah, but just with the fan base, it's kind of like I've gotten comments of saying, I hope Superman and Wonder Woman are together in James Gunn DCU. You know, just I, I don't know. It's just a natural gravitation to this pairing
Most
that
people think Superman and Wonder Woman are together.
exactly the outside. This is what I'm saying with casual fans and you know these hardcore comic fans. Sometimes it blurs that you can be a hardcore fan and but you still want something different. You still, you know, and that is what has carried Superman and Wonder Woman as a relationship because a lot of older fans actually do want Superman and Wonder Woman together. You know, it's just the loud, mainly Lois fans that want to keep this status quo, but you can see the books aren't selling. You know, they have the marriage, they even have John, whether he's in the books or not anymore. But those books sold less than New 52 did.
I mean, hell, none of it's kind of funny. Didn't the like I see V2 numbers come out for comics, and DC was not even anywhere in the top 10 or top 50.
DC's top, they aren't even in the top 20.
That is pathetic for DC. That is pathetic.
I think it starts, no, I think Batman is in the top 20, but the other
Batman should be in the
books,
top 10. I'm sorry. When Transformers is selling more than Batman, you got problems.
yeah, I think Batman starts within the, I think it was 11. I will, let me check that. But yeah, every other book starts, I think Batman and Superman was like ranked 21. So,
I'm sorry for Batman. The top selling book at DC, that is absolutely abysmal. Like really, really abysmal.
yeah, and it's really, I mean, I don't even know what the Batman book is doing. I know that Detective Comics, they had, I don't know if Bruce he's somewhere with Talia.
Yeah,
That's all I
because
know.
okay, so someone hung Batman, and then he went into a coma, and see. I don't know either. I'm trying to interpret what Ram V is doing in Detective. It's kind of weird, but in terms of like Batman, they're currently doing like an arc where he's at war with Zur-En-Arrh slash Failsafe, and Zur-En-Arrh slash Failsafe is impersonating Batman, but basically saying, "Hey, my body was broken. I downloaded into this robot body," and he's like, he's teaming up. He's basically turning Gotham into another police state. So, in other words, Batman has lost Gotham yet again.
That's really awful.
It's the same story. Here's the thing, Britt. So in the Scott Snyder run, the Batman lost Gotham. In the Tom King run, Batman lost Gotham. In the James Tynion the fourth run, he lost Gotham twice. Twice.
I mean, they are rehashing the same stories because, like I said earlier, modern writers, they don't have any type of original idea. It's always an older idea they believe no one has read and they can get away with it. But once you know the story and you go back to read the original, it's kind of like, this is so mediocre.
Yeah, it's so bad. Next
So,
story, which we have covered again. JLA Power and Glory. Such a badass book. I was sold the minute Superman is like restrained, and then he's like struggling, and then Rao goes, "There's no use struggling against my restraints." He goes, "I'm not struggling, I'm flying," and he flies the fortress right into the moon.
yeah, this story, again, we've already said this story is supposed to be, it was set for movies. And the I just love the scene of Diana reviving Clark with the lightning bolt.
Yeah, that's
Like,
dope.
that is um okay, so question, did Batman come out in April?
This year,
Yeah, because I have the ICV2 up and I do not see Batman at all. The
I think
For
so.
April.
I think so because I had Batman issues for my LCS.
Because
Oh, was he not
see,
even in the top 20? Was he like really
oh wow,
below?
wait. Actually, Batman 146 is actually 43.
Oh, good lord. Oh no.
Okay.
See,
So
this is your problem. Your top selling book that props up your company is.
okay, so of course I'll read a few. Of course, the because the House of Brainiac, because it is a crossover an
It's
event,
pretty good so far.
and the and also the variant covers.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with ranked 21. Ranked 21.
Okay.
And then Nightwing 113, which is I believe that was an anniversary issue. That is 23. Superman 13, House of Brainiac is 25. Um, then Batman World's Finest 26 is 30. Wonder Woman 8 is 31.
Mm-hmm.
Then uh the Batman First Night is 38.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Comics is 41.
Oh god.
Batman 146 is 43. Batman and Robin 8 is 46. Oh, and that is all
Wow.
for the top 50. Yeah, so a lot of Batman books, Superman is within a crossover, so I really don't count that because of the variant covers and it's an event. Nightwing was a special. Um, so yeah, DC is in a terrible state right now. And it's even worse that, yeah, your top dog, Batman, is 43. I didn't even know that. I really wasn't paying attention. But yeah, now that makes things very bad.
Yeah, like yeah, that's really odd. And Tevia, fan comics don't count for John. So just okay. But do you think DC needs a reboot? Yeah, I do. I really do. Because at this point, the whole combined, like, everything's canon doesn't work. And I can't believe they ever thought that was a good idea because you need established canon, particularly for your characters that have 80,000 origins. It's just stupid. But anyway, in this, yeah, you have that, and again, we're like lightly glossing over a lot of the stories that we already covered in depth, but this one is like legit, like one of my favorite Justice League stories of all time. Like it's right there. I freaking love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, Brian Hitch, he is one of the he knows the characters, and that is what you want. Too bad that he is, I think, exclusive with
Ghost
Jeff
Machines.
Johns. But I mean, he did understand the characters, did understand Clark and Diana's relationship. I love the scene that again Clark wants to share his, you know, he feels like this is Kryptonian history and he wants to share it with Diana. He's so open with her, and you know, that is what I love about the relationship. So yeah, for Brian Hitch to really not only give us good scenes for Superman and Wonder Woman, but being a Superman story and not overshadowed by Batman, and to really it showed the good and the bad of Krypton. So that's even more points. I don't like when it goes too extreme of showing that Krypton is just this bad, you know, desolate planet.
Yeah.
Is that there is some good within it. It's just the fact of, yeah, maybe it was a god, or the elders, or the hires of Krypton, you know, miscalculated, or just was stuck in their ways, and that is what destroyed the planet. It's not because the planet just was emotionless.
Yeah, exactly. But I wish Kryptonians looked more alien, but then Superman would look more alien. I mean, as far as we know, he has like different like organs or like or something like that. And by the way, Brit, that gives me an idea for our story. I will tell you about that after the show. So, Midsummer Nightmare. This one, yeah, this one's a recent one that I read because Brit brought it up in an episode, and yeah, I could definitely see what you're talking about in here. This story was awesome.
Yeah, having Amnesic Justice League is so fun because you see them in their civilian personalities, but at the same time, they are still very much the heroes. And when, first of all, when Batman like dunks Arthur's head in the fish tank for him to remember, and it juxtapose how Clark was so caring for Diana. Yeah, I love that difference, and also just the fact of Diana seeing her as a teacher. You know, that is what motivated me to want her to be a teacher within, the stories that I write.
Yeah, and that actually works really well, particularly if she's like a teacher of like Greek myth and all that stuff, and that actually works really well for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I honestly, if choosing occupations for Diana, of course, and she works for the UN as an ambassador for Themyscira, or for foreign affairs. Um, she also likes art, so she can be a curator, an educator, professor, and even an artist. I like that she in literature, and that is the thing that her and Clark have in common, and also science. Because with the mascara, that is a big thing, is arts and science
Mm-hmm.
for the mascara. So with combining all that, yeah, that is pretty much the occupations that I see Diana have. And like I said, it goes well with Clark being a writer. It's not so much as he being at the Daily Planet, and I'm always rooting for him to be a global correspondent.
Yeah, or like an online journalist because it really it's more relevant because newspapers don't work well today. But anyway, so Diana having a job as a teacher is a great idea for the Super Wonder universe. I'd also close down the day plan and maybe you can choose another job, maybe an astronomer. That could work too. Nickname says or any yeah, I know because I'm a new Superman fan, so I'm not sure where to start, but the standalone books. Hey, well, this entire show is devoted to that bro. So there you go. And by the way,
Yeah, and
welcome to the fandom, my friend. I know a lot of we're here to welcome you with open arms, not like a lot of the
right,
fan base.
right, and honestly, standalone stories are so much better than
Hmm.
trying to read the uh, books in canon, or those, because the those stories, honestly, what they try to implement as canon as the end all be all, it takes the fun out of it. It
Hmm.
limits, the creativity and the narrative. And with all the events DC is trying to do to raise, their sales and just that whole thing of pleasing older fans, pleasing Twitter, that really just isn't interesting and is so tired. So standalone one and done books and that actually show you the characters and have a focus is so much better.
Yeah. So next story is one of my favorite comic book stories of all time. JLA, Our World's at War, where this epic force is coming and it's going to attack it's attacking the world. So there was this moment, and I know exactly the moment that Brit recommended this book for SuperWonder fans. So Wonder Woman is badly injured. I'm not going to say why because I want you to still read the book. And Superman ignores everything to rush her to safety. Even with Lois talking in his ear, going, Smallville, where are you, Smallville? He goes, no, he basically desperately goes, I got to get Diana to safety.
That, and it's even that scene, but also the scene that Clark, when Hippolyta is injured, and he thinks that it's Diana and that Diana dies. So he is so he ignores Lois and he's like, not Diana. It's like everything else going around, that's just, we're trying to fight this war and we're trying to hold it together. And the very piece that's holding us together she's potentially gone. So he, is so distraught by that and just, for that moment of really seeing how much he cared for her. And yeah, you do see the real intentions of Lois is that she's very selfish. And
Big surprise.
yeah, and for her to say she wants Clark back instead of Superman when you're in the middle of a war.
Yeah, being a journalist ain't gonna do anything in a war, dude.
Yeah, and also that you're not gonna have them either way if the world ends. So
yeah,
so
I'm
it's
pretty
kind
sure
of like,
this is the situation where you want the Kryptonian part.
yeah. So this story really showed and this is what is missing with DC's events and crossovers, the emotional states, with like Williamson's uh Dark Crisis. You really didn't feel the stake of a crisis. It just felt like they just used the word,
They did. I mean, that's why they changed it to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
And even that, where was the Infinite Earths?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, where is that? At no point was the multiverse really that threatened in Dark Crisis.
Right. And what else? The just the whole thing right now with DC, you really it the world they have now just feels so isolated and so empty. And with killing the Justice League, literally or figuratively, and not having that book and just not having the Justice League together, and it was so contrived when I think it was before Dark Crisis or afterwards, but Clark and Diana was walking through the Hall of Justice and they um were talking about how they will be separated, like the Justice League will go their own ways because they have so many issues within their own solo books, and how in setting up the Titans to be like the new Justice League.
Which they're
But
not. That worked about as well as I thought it was going to work.
oh my God, I just realized with saying that the Titans book isn't even in the top 50.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Tom Taylor. But
I
even
mean,
with that, I'm like, wait a second. You thought that making the Titans the world's premier superhero was going to have the effect you thought it was?
honestly, I think that they are trying to kind of grasp how the 80s were, because the Titans were a big deal within the
Teen
80s.
Titans, though. It was Teen Titans, not Titans.
Well, yeah. Well, they are using the Teen Titans, cast.
Yeah, iconography.
Of the 80s.
I mean, I think that was about the only time that like DC outsold the X-Men was with the Teen Titans by ironically Marv Wolfman, and George Perez.
Right. So and that says something because, that is who created the characters, and so of course they would know, how to deal with them and how to be creative. But like I said, the more modern you get, the lazier it seems, the lazier writers are becoming and trying to uh I guess reignite that type of feeling is just not there. So yeah, for DC to try to push the Titans as the new Justice League, and for that book to not be in the top 50, and honestly, I haven't been paying attention, so I don't even think it's in, like, I would even say 60s. I think it pretty much has fallen out of the, top 100. And if that is so, that really just shows DC is very much directionless, and they really do need a reboot. They probably don't want to, but yeah, I mean, the decisions they have made post or during Rebirth really has taken a toll, and so many people want to um uh blame New 52 for it, but no, it Rebirth was what the fans wanted, right? Why um is are their sales so bad,
I
now?
know. If this is my problem. I see people so many times say, well, Rebirth was a step in the good direction because they were doing what the fans wanted. I'm like, if the fans wanted that, how come the thing flopped?
Yeah, that is a question that they can't answer.
Yeah,
They want to answer.
because they don't care about sales. They've told me themselves. Well, we don't care about sales. DC's a business. But anyway, last story, and this is one we already mentioned before, but it's a definite SuperWonder story. And that is Kingdom Come, of course. You can't have a list of SuperWonder books without Kingdom Come.
Yeah. Kingdom Come, like I said earlier, it elevated Diana to be taken serious as the voice of reason. She went through her own thing, but she's held strong. She never truly tried to give up, and she didn't want to, because if she gave up, then everything else would have, fell more. So,
Even when she was stripped of her crown.
and she kept that to herself. She kept that within, all that anger and pains, sadness that she felt. She kept that in, didn't want to talk about it, but she wanted to push like Clark to become, the hero that he needed to be, that the world needed to be. And even though she didn't admit it, which pretty much was admitted by her actions, she needed him to be. So it's really for, of course, there's a hidden agenda of Lois fans, saying how Kingdom Come is bad because of because it damages Lois and Diana. First of all, Lois is dead. She's irrelevant.
Yeah, so how is that
damage
how is that damage? And second off, Wonder Woman still kept to her principles. They were in the middle of a war against people that have powers.
Yeah, the only reason why and to say that she's violent or whatever, or that, and for Mark Waid to believe, Gail Simone, for her to say that you don't understand Wonder Woman, and for
you did not invent the character, so arguably you don't understand Wonder Woman, particularly with your Twitter behavior recently.
Right, and then within the context of the story, again, she was not violent or this. Even with DC's recent saying that she was a bloodthirsty and warmongering, she wasn't. She was very frustrated in the sense of, like, you have these anti-heroes being villains. The lines are blurring between who is the hero and who's the villain. So what is she supposed to do? Is she supposed to be like Mother Teresa or something? Or is she supposed to like cradle them and pacify them. What was she supposed to do? It was a war going on, and people were dying between all this, and being caught in the crossfire. So honestly, the criticism of Diana is only because she was uh, at the end romantically involved with Clark. That's the only reason why. Any other complaint is really an over exaggeration.
Because that's all that these people care about is they can't let good stories go to SuperWonder fans. And by somebody get caught up in the comments. So Luffy says we need a blog post that describes SuperWonder and all its positives. Stand by on that. And people claiming Kingdom Come damages Diana is just a cover. The truth is Kingdom Come makes Lois fans insecure because it shows how much better Diana is than Lois. Not only that, because you hear so many people saying, oh, if Wonder Woman is with Superman, he turns evil. And I'm like, or like when Lois dies, he turns into Injustice Superman. And I'm like, it didn't happen in Kingdom Come. And then they'll say, but that's not canon. Then I'll go, you never said canon. And second off, it started when that was written, it was canon.
Yeah, honestly, canon is not canon anymore. So that whole thing can be thrown out the window. Honestly, I would go much more for the Elseworld story, because that is where Superman and Wonder Woman kind of really flourished, I would say. Charles is the only exception within New 52 quote unquote canon. But within the context of the relationship and how Elseworlds, it's not a limitation. And that is the thing with canon, is that it's such a limitation, and you have to stay on this line of status quo. And that is how you know that they can't do so much. Jim Lee said that Superman and Wonder Woman being together was the new status quo. It was the permanent status quo. No, not everything is permanent within comics, but I guarantee you that whole thing of being so contrived, of trying to break them up, especially after they practically booted Charles off the book for Tomasi, it's kind of like they didn't know how to keep the momentum going. And that is a creative problem with them. It's not the concept itself. So with canon, whatever, yeah, I don't take that seriously. I never did. And even more so now, because of how messy DC is.
Yeah, and it actually brings up a good point. Honestly, it's baffling about how every other hero in comics can explore different love interests, but Superman. Yeah, I know.
That is because Lena, Diana, shoot, even Maxima, Lori, the mermaid, any other love interest is far more interesting than Lois. But the thing is, in Lois, she's just a reporter. Even when they try to make her seem like she's this, all-time, the greatest female, character, she's not.
She's not. She's definitely not.
Yeah. And her only
people have tried to say that she's the first lady of DC and that like she's the most important character in DC. And I'm like, no,
that is definitely Diana.
Yeah, that is definitely Diana.
Yeah, and all of that. But New 52 showed it, that she is irrelevant if she isn't the love interest. And if you give time for Lena, if you give time for Diana, even Lori, again, people would much rather have them as love interests. And even Twitter. Honestly, you don't take Twitter comments serious because they're a bunch of bandwagoners and repeat the same things, just to fit in, or it's just negativity. They're fueled by that. That some people are scared to voice how they truly feel about Lois as a character in her relationship with Superman, and it's kind of like they just gravitate and accept it because that is the thing that you feel like you're going to be attacked by Lois fans in hordes because
Mm-hmm.
it's what they want, and everyone has to align to them.
I mean,
And
Brit and I have both come under attack from Chloe's fans.
yeah, so with that, again, if you really give the time for those other relationships, even platonic, because DC, after with the beginning of Rebirth, Tomasi too, Tomasi Jurgens and Rucka, they were like every which way threw jabs at Clark and Diana's relationship, whether it was the romantic relationship or even their platonic relationship as friends. And they purposely have had them distant for a very long time to where they weren't even acquaintances. They were strangers, it felt like. Empty. Any interaction was very robotic. It just didn't feel natural. And it was because they were trying to force the status quo back of Clark having to be with Lois and Steve only for movie synergy. So yeah, when you have to tear even a friendship up of characters, that shows how weak the basis of your status quo is.
Yeah, well, yeah. Plus, Twitter also has a lot of bots, but yeah, it shows when you have to denigrate one character to hold up another. That shows how stupid the other character is. And then Emperor Luffy says, "That's true, Brit. I kept my thoughts about SuperWonder silent for many years and just accepted the status quo until I found you guys. Now I'm an outspoken defender of the ship. That's the purpose of the show. That is
Yes,
that is
exactly.
110% the purpose of what Brit and I do. Let Clark.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
And you shouldn't have to feel that you can't voice your opinion. You know, that is the one thing that the internet has really
On
made people feel.
superheroes.
On fictional characters, you can't voice your opinion when, again, you're limiting creativity and you're, we are, well, they don't buy, but we are buyers just
I
like they
spend
are.
$300 a month on comics. I'm pretty sure I'm the demographic DC wants. By the way, so since we talked about fictional characters, I have to play this clip.
Okay, they're talking about fictional characters. Fictional characters.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, but some people, and I've seen it too, they do live vicariously through these characters. I've seen some say like they don't want a real like romantic relationship in reality, so they cling on to the fictional relationship. And I've seen a lot of Chloe's fans do that, and it's just really, yeah, it's not very healthy.
And you know what's kind of funny? DC knows that we're right because you notice with the marketing, it's all SuperWonder for like romance. Because guess what? They know that Lois doesn't work as a merchandise thing because she's just generic female journalist number 12.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a power couple, if you want actual marketing for any type of advertisement, um, it's Superman and Wonder Woman. Lois is, to the outside media, Lois is just a supporting character. They can try to push her as this co-lead, but her name is not on the comics. It's Superman and Action Comics. And if you want the Clark Kent is who I am, then they aren't going to change the comics to Clark Kent or, you know, Superman and Clark Kent Action Comics or whatever. So yeah, that whole thing, again, that is why they want to cling on to Lois being the love interest and only love interest, because if she isn't, she is very much irrelevant and easily put in the background. But even now, she pretty much barely has been in the books. I think Williamson has had her somewhat.
Sometimes, but it's like, what is she gonna do against the Brainiac invasion?
Right, and they are trying to give her like 3 issues backup with Action Comics.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and you know me, and you know I'm forced to buy that because I'm buying Action because I like the story. So I'm like, I'll read that, and you know it's kind of funny. All those books will probably be like checked down in terms of my rating because of the lowest propaganda.
I mean, well, ironically, Gail Simone is writing the main story because with Action
Well,
Comics,
that's a red flag.
they they don't have a permanent writer, so they're doing this all-star type thing of rotating um creative teams. And honestly, that's just a gimmick because they don't have a permanent writer, which that's a whole nother thing. But is Gail Simone, she's doing a supposed Golden Age story, but her writing again. Um, and then for the backup, like an 8-pager or whatever, it's a Lois story. And it's basically trying to prop her up as the editor in chief, I think. And Clark is going to be, worshiping her or whatever like that. And it's kind of crazy that you have that if she is the first lady or the queen or whatever of DC, yeah, why can't she have her own book?
Yeah,
Even Rucka,
remember the last time they tried that, it.
yeah, even with Rucka being supposedly a fan favorite art a writer, and and he is such this big Lois fan, why didn't that book sell? They even had the special initiative of returnability, and it couldn't even make it up to, I think I think it was first 45K, but then it couldn't even make that, so they like down it to 42K.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
It was even with art by Mike Perkins, who's a popular artist. So you couldn't even make that. Because also here's the thing: it's like apparently in the story she found out that like of all the multiverse and the reboots and everything like that. I'm like, how would you find out about this?
yeah, and even that whole plot went by the wayside because
Yeah,
I think that they try to prop up Lois to be like this, more than what she is as a reporter. And I think that um what Rucka said about the book is that he didn't want it to have Superman's wife or Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. He wanted to just say Lois Lane.
how
But
that
yeah,
works, bro.
right, but at the same time, he still said that Lois has these connections because of who she's married to.
I love
So,
that.
so it's kind of,
And you know what's hilarious? I love whenever those people say Lois is not irrelevant. She had this top-selling book in the '60s, and I'm like, it was in the '60s, so I don't care about it. But second off, that was called Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane, and you want to know what they did in that? They put her in blackface.
that not only that, which again, um, more than half of the stories within that book very problematic and did not age well. But also the whole promise uh, of that book was the fact of her wanting to marry Superman,
She was
like
like, "Will
getting him
Superman
to,
still love me if I'm a black woman?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will."
and then they actually had Superman kind of be a little bit Rachel. So
Oh God, come on.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Superman of all people, if he's like this the greatest person ever to exist, is not going to be it's like when they had John Kent come out to his father, which I get is an important moment. But then they're like, "Will he accept me?" And I'm like, "Here's the problem with that type of story idea. It's that it comes off as tone deaf to Superman because Superman works with people in the LGBT community on the Justice League all the time. DC tries to say Wonder Woman is a member of that community, but arguably she's not. But the point is, Superman has worked and is close friends with many members of the LGBT community. You couldn't think that he'd be fine.
they wanted to drum up drama. Even Tom Taylor had like it was John revealing, or he wasn't ready to reveal, but he was holding hands with Jay, and Lois walks in, and she has like this mean, like stern look, whatever, and she tells him that she wants to talk to him. So it's like trying to give this dramatic effect. And she all of a sudden hugs him, and it's kind of like, yeah, that didn't play so well, because for you to drum this up, it it was so contrived. Like, these are not the characters. It would have been more of a twist if Lois didn't accept him than you trying to make it seem like she wouldn't accept him. That just didn't, whatever you tried to convey didn't. And that's the same thing with Clark's reaction. He wouldn't, it's not a surprise or whatever that he would accept him. Like, it's not. So again, John, the whole thing with John is very contrived. He's a character with no depth, no story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like yeah, I saw DM tell you. So Superman's a good chill guy, proceeds to write a different character. Exactly. Emperor Luffy trying to make Lois special always comes off like an empty bluff. It's all talk, no show. DC, if you have to consistently resort to gaslighting to convince people she's special, yeah, maybe because she's not. Yeah, exactly. Everything's a gimmick. Exactly. But I think that's a good place to leave it. This was a fantastic episode. Hope you guys agreed with our list. Put in the comments what books for SuperWonder fans you would recommend. So, Brit, tease us with what you have coming out.
All right. So, of course, tomorrow's Mother's Day. So, I have a little short story with Austria and Diana that I will be posting for Mother's Day. And then I have a story that I will be sending you later on.
Okay.
And finishing up chapter 2 of Shelter. And we will have that posted in the next couple weeks. And then the Athens story, and just catching up with all the stories I have abandoned, and then more diving into the deep depths of our world, because we have so many stories, and so building this our own like universe has been so fun. And every day, we go back and forth of sharing ideas. Of course, Jared is still 100 or so points ahead of now.
I
We've
think
made
about
this
200
game.
points by this point. Or let me be clear, I will be by the time I tell you the 2 ideas I have at the end of the show.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get my points tomorrow.
We'll see.
So,
we'll see. But anyway,
yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, just finishing up those stories. And again, I want to thank everyone for supporting the Instagram. And like I said, we are maybe less than 50 followers away from 63K, and 65 will be here before you know it, and 70 by the end of the year. So just this whole gain of showing support for Superman, the Superman and Wonder Woman, the ship and everything, is that this is a community, a welcoming community, and you don't have to be afraid to, speak out.
Exactly. So stay heroic, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zois and Max about for life. See you later. Bye-bye.